Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I've come down to Superior Plants with Jason Stevens. We've done a video with Jason before on some of his favorite things here at his nursery. How would you describe your nursery?
So we do a lot of contract growing, wholesale, and I try and grow things that are not so common. It's rare and unusual stuff, and that's all in the eyes of the beholder as far as what's rare and unusual, but that's kind of what I try to stick to just separate myself from other propagating nurseries.
Right. So you're looking at so you're doing a lot of your propagation in-house. So whether it's division, grafting,
cuttings,
rooting, cuttings.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only thing we buy in would be something I don't have that I want to get started on to propagate.
Right.
And then sometimes understock for grafting, I'll buy that in. But yeah, for 95% of everything is propagated in-house.
Okay, gotcha. So, so a lot of this is going to go out to other nurseries who are themselves looking for something different or unusual to add to their line.
Yeah, and I'm established with enough nurseries that I've kind of created a pipeline with them to where they're pretty much getting some of the same things every year and want to know, what's new.
Right.
So it's worked for me for going on 15 years.
Right.
So yeah, that's all I know.
Right. So, but we're gonna take a look at some of your favorite things for this time of the year, or some of the interesting things. But you are available. People can buy these things from you. I mean, not just to other nurseries, but you do some retail sales.
Right. And nothing here. I'm just not set up for it as far as signage, parking, labor, that sort of thing. But yeah, so Pine Knot Farms has a open house hellebore festival, and I bring winter interest things, and that is an annual event, and it's the last 2 weekends in February, first 2 weekends in March, so it goes over 4 weekends. And then we also do just 1 weekend in the fall, and that time of year is more like sasanquas or things that are late blooming, end of the season kind of stuff. And Ralston blooms in April, sometime mid-April. I don't know if they've set dates on that or not, but I've participated in that sale. We've only had one post-COVID, but that's really the only retail I do. I don't have a website, and like I said, I'm just really not set up for it in-house.
That Pine Knot farm sale is something everybody should go to at some point, just to see greenhouses full of hellebores in full bloom. It's just, even if you're not toting anything out of there, it's worth seeing.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really see a lot of stuff in general blooming in mid-February, but if you go there, it's like spring happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we're going to talk through a few things. The Ralston Arboretum will definitely come up again here. On the table, we've got a few Camellia japonicas. Right.
Yeah.
You want to talk us through a couple of them?
We'll talk about Stellar Sunrise. This is a japonica, and it's starting to show some color in the buds. Won't be long. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if I don't see open flowers in the block in the next couple weeks, especially this week. I think we got a couple of days in the 70s, but this is a Camellia forest nursery introduction, and it's a branch sport of April Dawn. April Dawn? But there's a whole series of April. I don't know how many. I mean, maybe a dozen or so. But they were all bred for cold hardiness, and so the April series, and this doesn't have the April name, but it's a sport off of April Dawn, like we said. And Zone 6B is they'll go there, and one of the things that makes them hardy or makes them, if anybody's got a Camellia japonica, no matter the variety, if you've got an old established plant, you've seen it before, to where it'll start blooming. We'll get a really cold, hard freeze, maybe 20 degrees or something, and these buds like this will just fall off. They'll just turn brown and fall off, and you basically lost all your flowers that it took a year to produce. With these, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. What'll happen is if the flowers are open, they'll get nailed.
The open flowers.
The open flowers are getting nailed and turn to mush. But if there's any that are like this, that are just starting to show some color, you might get a little burn where it's showing color. But the bud won't drop off.
Any of the tight buds will still open.
And all the tight buds will still open. But it blooms over a pretty long period, depending on if we stay in a stable, late winter, early spring climate. If it gets hot too fast, it'll finish up pretty quick.
So camellias tend to be a little more expensive at retail than other things. How long from a cutting to this 3-gallon size container?
This is probably 4 years old.
4 years. 4 years. So there are things in 3-gallon containers at retail stores that are less, about 18 months. Probably 24 months. We're going to, we'll see a spirea in a few minutes. It can probably be done in 18 months, and that's 4 years. How much growth in a container? You're getting maybe 6 inches, a real growth.
Yeah, when they're like 1 gallon size, they're not going to really set any flower buds, so they'll start to grow a little faster. The older they get, I take my cuttings in August. I try to do them all in August. Sometimes it goes into September, but they really start to form flower buds late summer, early fall. So you don't want to cut on them too hard if it's a crop that you're trying to produce flowers on.
Right.
But if it's gallons, I can go ahead and whack on them and get the cuttings I need.
One last thing on Camellia japonicas. The only thing that will root is this top 4 inches.
Current season growth.
Current season's growth that's hardened off. So this is another thing with camellias. If I'm looking at this plant, it can't root. It don't root them this time of year anyway. But usually when they're hardened off in the summer, on a plant like this, you want to take cuttings off a vigorous plant, and then you'll end up on this plant right here where you may only get 5 cuttings off of it, or 6.
Yeah, so it can take quite a while to build up stock where you can grow wholesale numbers.
Where I can take a spirea, I can take the entire branch, and I can take 3-inch segments off of it and root every single one of them.
And another thing too, they're really slow to root. We stick them in August and really don't touch them till early summer.
A couple more Camellia japonicas you have here. What is it? Lady Vansittart?
Lady Vansittart, Lady Vansittart. I've heard it a couple of different ways, but this is one of the, I think there's a handful of camellias out there that the flowers, you can get anything from it's a solid, it's kind of a dark pink, maybe some people would call it red, to almost a solid white, and everything in between. You can get, white with red streaks in it. Variegated flowers is what they call it, and there's actually a sport called Yours Truly, and what it is like a pink, it's like a kind of a pale pink flower that's outlined in like a darker pink. Real unusual.
This one's been around for a long time, though.
Yeah, right? That would be a heirloom.
Yes. Right, it's like
type variety. I've at least
1800s.
Old.
Yeah, this is the thing about you can have unusual plants now that are just 100 years old because nobody grew them.
They've been out of the market for decades.
Right, and there's nothing wrong. there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands probably of named Camellia varieties, and there's one that's been around for 100 and some years and has a beautiful variegated flower.
And why I like it is just the the variation you can get with the flowers.
Right.
And sometimes I'll sell them at Pine Knot for in one course, and they'll have flower buds on them, and you just see the range of flowers in them, and people think I've got them mislabeled or something like that because there's two different two different color of flowers on two different plants, and they're like, you got these mixed up. I was like, that's what it does. But anyway, that's Lady Vansittart.
What do we have?
Next, we're going to talk about this is Camellia japonica April Remembered. And it's from the April series of cold hardy japonicas, Zone 6B cold hardiness. This has been I've grown maybe half a dozen of the April ones, and this one grows best for me as far as just vigor, sun tolerance. It's the one I was able to build numbers up the fastest on, so it grows best in my conditions.
Right.
But yeah, as you can see, this flower, the buds are like a dark pink, and then it opens up. It's got sort of a almost pure white center,
like a semi-double.
And this flower actually doesn't do the plant justice. The flowers will be like that big on a mature plant. Huge, just huge flowers. And this one has been in the greenhouse, unheated, but this is a 5-gallon that is at least 2 years older than this.
Yeah.
But it's been outside through the winter so far. I mean, we've had some testy nights. I think it got down to 11 here for one night, and then some upper teens, low 20s following that. But
it looks good. I mean, there's a tiny burn on the leaf here.
Yeah, you get some burn on the leaf, but yeah, I mean the flower buds are still nice and green. So yeah, it's
something we consider very cold sensitive.
Japonicas. But
right. All right.
No issues with this whatsoever.
So let's move to the Magnolia Serendipity, which we covered on the channel a couple times because it's such a great. This is such a great ornamental plant.
So some of the growers within the Johnston County Nursery Association.
And we're in Benson, North Carolina, by the way, Zone 7B, 8A-ish.
We've collaborated with the Arboretum to come up with a program in introducing new plants. And these are plants like from the Arboretum that Mark, the director, he gives us suggestions, and we talk as growers and garden centers of what would fit nice into our market, and then expand it from there. But this is one of the plants, Magnolia Serendipity. I think Jim knows a little bit more of the history of where it originated. Bobby Green.
Yeah, Bobby Green, who's introduced a lot of the camellias that I've shown on the channel, sent this to the Arboretum.
Sent it to the Arboretum
with a number.
It was just a trial plant to plant out and see how it does. But I've been propagating it, I guess, since 2016, 17, somewhere in there, and
it's incredibly cold hardy.
Great plant. This has been. You look over the top of the plant, you can see there's
so many buds.
So many buds. It's seen 11 degrees outside. I didn't protect it, uncovered, just to see what 11 degrees in late December would do to it, and it's held up well. But it's loaded with buds.
Right. We consider banana shrubs hardy zone 8 to 10, but this hybrid here is definitely hardy in zone 7.
solid zone 7.
the
no
one
doubt.
and we know that. I mean, we can't know that from newer plants because we haven't had a real winter in a while. But the one at the Arboretum's been there plenty of years. It's seen plenty of zone 7 winters.
Yeah, and
at this
I
point.
mean, in 2000, January 2018, we were below freezing day and night for 10 days.
Yeah,
and
right,
the one at the Arboretum was, I mean, it was probably 10 feet then, and all it had was a little bit of burn on the very tips of the plants, but the inside of the plants,
Right.
I'm sure the inside, flower buds came through it.
Right. So if somebody local in Raleigh or anywhere in North Carolina sees this choice plants tag from the Arboretum, some money is going back to the Arboretum.
Yeah. So what it is for every plant sold, 50 cents goes back to the Arboretum.
Gotcha. It was interesting that people asked me at an event you were at not long ago, where are we going to find new plants? Where are new plants coming from? And my answer is that places like the Ralston have 5,000 cultivars. I mean, no, we haven't looked through just the plants that we've already collected.
Yeah, I mean, when we go through the Arboretum and looking at plants to, try and put in this program or whatever, I mean, we haven't scratched the surface.
There's a lot of good pieces there that people walk past all the time that are amazing.
But you don't want we don't want to like flood the market with plants nobody knows. I mean,
Right.
it has to be a process that everybody's on the same page with.
And it has to be useful. This plant gets big, evergreen, blooms, is fragrant, all those kinds of things.
This is Jack. He's a English setter. He's 13. He'll turn 14 in August. But yeah, he likes to find the mice in the plants and mark territory.
He's been here ever since I've come here.
Yeah, I've had
He's
him
been here.
since he was a puppy. So.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so a couple more over here. I don't really talk about spireas very often on the channel, but this is the double bridal wreath.
Yeah, so this is Spirea prunifolia cultivar plena. Not much to it right now. I think Spirea is kind of a love-hate relationship with most people. You either
Right.
like them or you don't.
Right.
But this one is bridal wreath spirea, and if you look closely, you can see all these buds on it. They're all flower buds. So late winter, early spring, usually sometime mid to late February, it'll start blooming. And blooms pretty much with forsythia. I mean,
right.
how forsythia stands out. Okay, so yeah, fall color is going to turn kind of a burgundy red.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll hold onto its leaves for
Yeah.
quite a while.
Right.
But yeah, the highlight is when it's blooming.
Yeah. And it has nice foliage. It blends right in. It's actually a good screening plant when it's during the spring and summer.
Yeah,
it ends
I
up
mean,
very
it's
thick.
a great complement to a winter garden.
Yeah, for sure. So Selaginella, which I've covered a few times on the channel, but I think it's worth mentioning over and over how good of a plant.
Yeah, so this is Selaginella baronii, arborvitae fern. And I wanted to show you all the difference. So they both are in cold frame greenhouses, unheated white poly houses. These were put in probably about 3 weeks before these. So these got exposed to some elements of winter. But this is what it's going to do in the landscape. It's going to turn this bronzy color through the winter. It's evergreen, so it's not going to die back to the ground. And it forms a nice, dense clump. It's not aggressive as far as spreading or anything like that, but I mean, the texture of it in a shade garden is really different than most any other thing you're going to see. I mean, it looks like a thuya, arborvitae.
It does. Well, somewhere in between a fern and an arborvitae. I mean, you could mistake it for either. and it's neither.
Yeah, and it's neither.
Right.
But yeah, once established, I mean, it's pretty drought tolerant.
Yeah.
It does need some shade though. It needs definitely some afternoon shade.
We have ours under a red bud at the house, and it looks great. And I think the channel sometimes it's all flowers, but there's a place for shades of green, different textures. You know, this thing's super soft to the touch. Once you touch it one time, you'll be touching it all the time. So we spend a lot of time talking about variegated Aucuba, but green Aucuba are fantastic.
Right.
Landscape plants.
Yeah. So this is Aucuba japonica Rozannie. It's a female form. It'll have red berries. Probably needs some pollinator to it.
Some people say it's self-pollinating, but yeah.
You know, I have seen fruits on the gallons, but they've also been beside
near other
Aucubas.
Right.
So, you know, I can't say that it's self-pollinating.
Yeah.
But anyway, super tough plant. It can grow in the driest conditions of dark, deep shade.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you got this place in your shade garden that you just want to filler, I mean, this is a great plant.
Yeah.
Evergreen.
You know what I found with this particular variety is they're pretty uniform. Like I can get it with Aucuba. Sometimes it's tough to get. If I need 10, it's tough to find 10 that kind of look alike. These tend to grow a little more uniform.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a semi-dwarf form, so I mean, it stays good and compact. And I know a lot of times, I mean, with some other different cultivars, you don't get this density on it at this age.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just it's a great looking shade plant that, you know, again, shades of green, you know, look great, especially this time of year.
Yeah,
like this time of year in the
you know,
understory, you know, where it can look kind of bleak. That's a standout.
Yeah, it'll blend in though through the growing season. I mean, you really won't even notice it in most cases.
Right.
But yeah, in the winter, I mean, it really stands out.
So I used to come here, come here and right before the season would start every year when I was doing retail, and raid Jason of all his early flowering things.
Yeah.
I did. I truly did. If it was, he grows Daphne, which we're not showing here. This Camellia collection, Pieris, and many other things, hellebores, and so on and so forth. I was just raiding everyone's early flowering things so I could get my season started a little earlier. But this is another one that I would always grab.
Pieris japonica temple bells, really tough plant. I've grown some different varieties of Pieris, and this is the only one I can grow full sun, general irrigation. You know, don't have any root rot issues with it.
Yeah, clay soil.
It's tough.
Yeah, it
really
is.
Tough
It is tough.
And all this is flower buds. I mean, that in itself is showy, I think.
Yeah, right. But all winter long, it looks like, you know.
When it starts blooming, I mean, it's just kind of a weeping mound of white blooms that are bell shaped. So I think that's kind of where the name comes from, temple bells.
Yeah, and once the flowers are done, the new growth comes out on it. It's kind of a reddish burgundy color.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes from everywhere too. I mean, it grows somewhat like an azalea would, as far as new growth and conditions.
It's one of those things with shopping for Pieris. It can fool you because you get the flowers on the outside, and you won't pay attention to the fact that the plant's actually very thin in the middle. This one tends to grow thicker, you know, just on its own, you know. Like when other ones stop flowering, sometimes I look at it and go, "There's nothing left of it."
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but no, this is if you've struggled at all growing these, this is a variety. We have one called Mountain Snow that's similar to this. That's also quite vigorous and it's held up in some dry shade conditions.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, I've grown maybe half a dozen different cultivars through the years, and this is the only one I grow now, just because, you know, it's trouble-free.
Right. Amazing. Okay. Well, awesome, Jason. Thank you for showing off some of your interesting winter things, and you'll be at Pine Knot in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's coming fast. So,
Yeah.
it's third and fourth weekend in February and first and second weekend in March.
And you grow a lot of osmanthus, a lot of alyssium.
Yeah, a lot of osmanthus.
Interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a, you know, I try to be different as far as like, even if it's a common plant, I try to have a different cultivar nobody else has.
Yeah. Nice.
And that'll last a few years until
until
everybody starts to get it, but I have to keep things in the pipeline to stay different.
Right. Nice. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, guys.